The Rottweiler had been stealing food from the baby for 6 days. Not one person in that house understood what he was actually doing. Juno weighed 108 pounds and had the face of a retired general and the manners, mostly, of a diplomat. He had lived with the Reyes family for 5 years. He knew the rules. He had broken none of them. Until the afternoon, their son Mateo turned 11 months old and discovered that the world contained puffs. Puffs. Tiny corn-based dissolvable snacks in a bright orange cylinder. The food of champions, according to Mateo, who received each one with the gravity of a child receiving an inheritance. He would examine it, mouth it twice, and then it would be gone. And his face would produce an expression of pure satisfaction that had, over 3 weeks, become the defining emotional event of the family's afternoon. Or for Juno had watched this from a respectful distance for most of those 3 weeks. He knew food rules. He did not beg from Mateo's tray. He would position himself near the high chair, and he would watch with the attention of a scholar studying a primary source. But he kept the distance. He kept the rules. Until day 22. Claudia had opened a new canister. Different brand. Same product, essentially. She'd read the label, just a different manufacturer, on sale at the pharmacy. She put 3 puffs on the tray. Juno was at his distance. Mateo reached for the first puff. Juno crossed the kitchen in 4 steps and took the puff off the tray before Mateo's hand closed around it. Claudia was out of her chair before she understood what had happened. Juno had never once in 5 years taken food from a person's hand or plate or tray. Never. She took him by the collar and put him outside. He sat on the other side of the glass door and looked through it at the high chair and didn't move. She put another puff on the tray. Opened the door. Juno came in. He crossed to the tray and took it. She put him outside again. He stood at the door, making no sound, just watching through the glass. Referred. Her sister Rosa was visiting and she watched from the dining room doorway. He's food motivated around the baby. You see it with big dogs when they start to associate the high chair with snacks. He thinks it's his. Claudia looked at the cylinder of new puffs. Rosa watched Juno staring through the glass. You need to correct this behavior now, Claudia, before he gets territorial. Claudia had read every article about large dogs and infants. She knew what territorial meant. She had a 108-pound dog and a baby, and she took that word seriously. She kept Juno outside for the rest of the afternoon. She fed Mateo the new puffs at the high chair, with the door closed. Mateo ate enthusiastically. Juno watched through the glass without moving for 4 hours. The following morning, Claudia opened the door to let Juno in, and he went directly to the high chair and checked the tray. It was empty. He sniffed it for 20 seconds, went to the garbage can and sniffed that for 10, then sat in front of her and exhaled. Claudia's husband, Ernesto, came in and watched this. What is he doing at the trash? Claudia shook her head. I don't know. That's where I put the new puffs bag. He's obsessed with it. The second morning with the new puffs, Mateo awoke with hives on his right arm. Small, raised, pink. Claudia checked the rest of him. Stomach, left arm. Inside of elbow. More. Not severe, not spreading fast, but unmistakably there. She called the pediatrician. She mentioned the new snacks. The nurse said, bring the packaging when you come. The packaging had a different ingredient profile than the usual brand. One addition, a milk derivative processing aid, not listed in the main allergens because it fell below the standard disclosure threshold, but present. Mateo had a milk protein sensitivity. They had been avoiding dairy for 3 months. This batch had gotten through. Dr. Patricia Webb, pediatric allergist, told them in clinic that afternoon that a dog's olfactory system could potentially differentiate allergen-containing food from allergen-free food if the scent profile of the allergen was distinct enough and if the dog had prior exposure to a referred reaction event in a human they were bonded to. She paused. Has Mateo had any prior reaction that the dog witnessed? Claudia thought for a moment. The dairy scare in month 7? He'd broken out in hives. Juno had been there. Dr. Webb looked at the chart. Your dog may have recognized the scent of the compound that caused the reaction 7 months ago, in the new puffs. She closed the chart. What I know is this. The reaction you're treating today is mild. If you had continued feeding him that product, it would not have stayed mild. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next. 1. 6 days. Juno had gone to the tray every single day for 6 days and removed the source of exposure. Not stealing, not food aggression, not territory. A chemical signal in those puffs that matched a chemical signal from 7 months ago From the worst afternoon Matteo had ever had, the afternoon Juno had not left his side until the hives cleared. He had filed that smell. He had kept it. And when it came back wrapped in a bright orange cylinder, he had done the only thing available to him. He had taken it away. Has your dog ever refused to let your child near food, and you thought he was just being greedy? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Claudia threw away the cylinder of puffs. Juno was let in from outside. He came through the door and walked to the high chair and sniffed the empty tray and sniffed Matteo's hands and exhaled once. Slow, complete. Then he went to his bed beside the kitchen window and lay down. Matteo looked at him from the high chair, with the serious expression of an 11-month-old processing something significant. Then he put his fist in his mouth and looked at his mother. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never ask for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Juno put his chin on his paws. The tray was empty. The new puffs were gone. The air was clean. He could rest now.